The sponsor of today's video, AG1 by Athletic Greens.
But doing these all by hand and going one by one took a lot of time. I ended up sitting down halfway through. Lower back problems are not something I want to have. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy I did this all one by one.
Yeah, beautiful. Very cool. A lot of craftsmanship, time consuming, and he put in the work. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's not even done yet. Super cool. Chef Brian Tsao here, not your typical chef, and today I'm gonna be reacting to Binging with Babish, Devil Fruit from One Piece anime with Alvin. Before I go on with today's episode, I do want to give a shout out to my newest sous chef level patrons, Myth Oceans, Remus. Thank you so much for your support. You, along with all the patrons, really do make a difference for this channel. And for those of you who are watching, please consider becoming a patron. Visit the link in the description below. By becoming a patron, you get to take advantage of some awesome perks like discounts off my merch store, early access to new episodes, plus you get priority on suggesting new episodes, so make sure you visit that link down below. And finally, I want to say a huge thank you to Vlad Dudier and the CBS Mornings crew, as well as everyone who came to visit Mission Sandwich Social as a result of the CBS Mornings The Dish segment covering myself and the sandwich shop. It has been overwhelmingly awesome to hear how many of you have come from far and wide to visit the shop. Phone calls being made from all different parts of the country asking if we can ship our sandwiches to them. Not yet, maybe one day. Man, I mean, it's been great, guys, and I'm actually kind of speechless and so grateful. Thank you again. Please do me a favor and check out the original segment on CBS's page, or channel rather. Again, thank you. And with that out of the way, let's react to some Binging with Babish. I really like One Piece. I think it's such a fun show. I don't follow it. You know, I've watched several episodes, but it's not a show I follow per se. I don't really have the time anymore, but yeah, cool show. I'm not familiar with this One Piece Devil Fruit though, so it should be interesting. Oh, I did not know that. I didn't know that's how he got his powers, which is cool. Well, you learn something every day. Hey everyone, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, AG1 by Athletic Greens. AG1 is a nutritional drink that I've actually been incorporating into my daily routine for a few weeks now, and I gotta say, I've really been enjoying it. AG1 is a lot more than just a green powder that you would find at your local supermarket. It has 75 ingredients that includes things from vitamins, minerals, superfoods, and probiotics. I am a professional chef, and I pride myself in being a fun guy to hang out with, but I don't always eat well, and I may not always get all the vitamins and nutrients that I should be from my food. By taking AG1 regularly, I am supporting immunity, very importantly, digestion and absorption considering my lifestyle. But man, I gotta tell you, what I felt the most is the energy boost. Those nutrients, those ingredients in there really have helped my energy levels, and that's really what I like it most for. AG1 is also NSF certified for sports, so they have to list every ingredient in there. You know exactly what's in there and exactly what you are putting into your body. Athletic Greens provides you with everything you need. It is so easy. It's literally just 1 scoop of AG1 to 8 ounces of water, put it into this killer bottle, shake it up, do it every day. That is it. Go to athleticgreens.com/Chef Brian Tsao to get started on your first order. Athleticgreens.com is going to be supporting my community by giving you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first order. Get on it. Do it now. Don't wait. Grab that deal. That's pretty awesome.
Today, I will be making the Devil Fruit from one of the most famous anime of all time, One Piece. In the show, a devil fruit is a rare species of fruit that gives whoever eats it a superhuman-like power, but makes them unable to swim as a cost. I wasn't really able to find one of those when I went to the grocery store, so how about a devil fruit cake?
I didn't know that either. Obviously, I don't follow One Piece close enough. Not that it's a life prerequisite or anything.
Using the precious Japanese crown melon. So first I'm going to start by making a simple sponge cake. In a stand mixer, I'm combining 6 whole eggs, 6 egg yolks, 300 grams of sugar, and a teaspoon of vanilla. I like to whip this until it hits that nice ribbony stage, about 5 minutes. While that ribbons are working, I'm sifting 225 grams of cake flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of kosher salt onto a sheet of parchment paper. Boop. Little volcano.
Okay, so sifting flour, is mainly for don't have as much clumps, and it makes mixing the batter a bit more consistent. It's not absolutely necessary, but you will have a marginally better end product. It's just good habit, I would say. It definitely makes a difference, but for me, I'm not a professional pastry chef. I have some baking and pastry experience. Make the bread for Mission Sandwich Social daily. We never sift the flours for those. So again, not absolutely necessary. Definitely makes more of a difference for fine pastry products, and especially things like cake, sponge cake. It is a necessary step in my opinion.
And then I'm combining 50 grams of unsalted butter and 120 grams of whole milk into a saucepan and melting it off camera. Once those ribbons are nice and beautiful, I'm slowly folding.
So what he's referring to, the ribbon stage, is, you're mixing these eggs and sugar. When you mix it, you're incorporating air, and eggs have protein in it, and those protein strands are, being whipped around and shifted around, and then they're kind of catching on to each other, create this network, and then they can trap air. As it traps air, it lightens, it fluffs up, it can double, triple in volume. And then the ribbon stage is just a method of getting it to the point where it has enough air, and you check it by taking that whisk and kind of going back and forth, and as it drips off this whisk, when it lands on the mass, it'll kind of create a ribboning. As this mixture is falling off the whisk and it comes down, it's not dissolving back into the mass immediately. It looks like actual ribbons, and that's a sign your eggs are ready for the next phase.
Our sifted flour mixture, using a large spatula and trying to make sure I don't knock out those beautiful air bubbles. Once that's pretty much there, I'm pouring that.
He doesn't want to knock out those air bubbles, so he's being gentle with it. He's folding it in. If he whisks or stirs vigorously, he's going to kill those air bubbles and, negate all the hard work that the mixer had to do. Most importantly though, aerating a product makes it a lighter, in this case a cake, will make it a lighter and fluffier cake.
Butter and milk into a bowl and putting in about 2 cups of our finished fluffy batter. This acts as kind of a sacrifice so that when we put this back into our original batter, it won't ruin all the bubbles, because if we just put the butter in first, that would have been a little mess.
So that's called tempering. I kind of did something similar with my carbonara video, which I don't think is going to be out yet, but I like to, let's refer back to this. I don't want to spoil the carbonara video. So he is tempering it, so he has the melted butter and milk mixture. He took some of the whipped up eggs and put it in there, and it's hot. He could have waited for it to come to room temp, but if it comes back to room temp, the butter is going to start to solidify again, and then it won't mix homogeneously into the mass. So what he's doing is he's taking some of the egg mixture, putting it into this hot butter and milk mixture, tempering it, cooling it essentially before he adds it to the mass, so that the hot temperature won't destroy all those air bubbles, but it's still melted enough that it'll incorporate evenly. Very precise and very good work here.
Our finished sponge cake batter is now evenly divided among 2 sheet trays lined with parchment paper. I kind of eyeballed this, so one may be a little more spongier than the other. After lightly spreading the batter into the edges to make sure that we get a nice shape, these go into a preheated 375 degree convection fan oven for about 10 to 12 minutes.
Convection fan oven or a convection oven versus a conventional oven. Conventional oven doesn't have a fan element that's swirling the air in the oven, which, the goal is to give you more consistent cooking. A conventional oven, the heat source is generally from the bottom, and then that bottom, so obviously the bottom is going to be hotter, but then hot air rises, and then it'll warm up the entire thing, right? Convection oven has a fan blowing the hot air so that it's more consistent throughout, essentially.
Back to our precious melon. The Japanese crown melon is a certain kind of muskmelon. It's prized for its intricate netting and super juicy insides.
The Japanese and their fruit game is fucking off the charts. It's amazing. Very expensive, totally worth it. Highly recommend. Look up Street Leaf Johnny on Instagram. That's where I get all my crazy stuff from if I need it. Truffles, white strawberries. I'm pretty sure I can get one of these melons from him too. If you're in the New York area, you need something cool and exotic, he's your man.
First, I'm going to take off the sticker. I am the melon now. Then I'm going to slice off the top, taking a moment to smell the melon and appreciate its delicate insides. Then after removing the seeds, I'm attempting to take out the inside fruit in as large of and solid of a piece as possible. Now that the fruit has been removed, I do have a plan for this to come back in later. For now, we're gonna let the base and top chill on a paper towel to drain any excess juice. Good melon. For a greater selection of fun fruits, I've decided to incorporate kiwis, strawberries, and mangoes into this devil fruit cake. I'm just cutting these into thin slices, roughly maybe a 1/6 to 1/8 of an inch. I did not have a ruler with me, so results may vary.
I'm not sure if Alvin is a professional. He clearly knows what he's doing. A few things I want to point out. It appears he's holding his knife correctly. He's got his index finger wrapped around the end of the blade, number one. But when he's cutting, you can see that his knife is very much angled versus holding it straight. Another sign of, what I would call poor knife cutting or knife skills is his fingers are extended straight rather than going with a tiger claw. He's not moving very fast, so there isn't as much danger of cutting yourself, but just as a general rule of thumb, you want to be cutting down straight at all times, and you also want to be doing the tiger claw or eagle claw, whatever you want to call it. Basically, your fingers are going in and you're cutting like this versus fingers extended out. And I should mention, one of the main reasons why you want to hold your knife straight is so that you have straighter knife cuts. For the most part, looks very good here, pretty much consistent, but you can see there's some pieces where it's thicker on one side, thinner on the other, small minor detail. I don't know what the application of this is, if he's gonna make a cream and incorporate the fruit into it, then in that case, it's not as important as if it's super precise. He's clearly not going to use this fruit for a decorative element on the outside of it. You sometimes you see some cakes with some fruit lined up on the outside. That you have to be very precise for it to look nice. I'm not sure.
I'm now moving on to making a stabilized whipped cream. I personally enjoy whipped cream instead of frosting or buttercream inside a light fruit cake, so this is how I like to make it. In a small bowl, I'm first blooming a little packet of gelatin, about 7 grams, in 80 grams of hot water, around 180. Not boiling though, because that will deactivate the gelatin.
Gelatin, blooming your gelatin. Basically, blooming your gelatin means that you're putting your gelatin onto some water, giving it a second to absorb the water. All these little grains of gelatin to absorb the water will fatten up, and then you mix it in. That's called blooming.
150 grams of cold heavy cream with 50 grams of powdered sugar and a pinch of salt. Once I see soft peaks, I'm slowly pouring in that bloom gelatin from earlier.
Soft peaks. So similar to the ribboning thing with whipped cream, same thing with meringues, you look for a certain peak. What you pay attention for is as the whisk is whipping in the bowl, you're paying attention to the structure of the cream on the sides. There's soft peak, there's medium peak, there's, so the more it whips in, the more air it whips into the cream, the stiffer it's gonna get. And you want to incorporate your other products into the whipped cream, in this case the gelatin, at the soft peak before it gets too firm where it may not mix in as well. If you continue to mix this, then eventually the milk solid will separate and you'll be left with butter. But at the soft peak is the perfect time to incorporate another ingredient.
This whipped cream, stabilized. Hey look, our sponge cakes are done. So I'm gonna take roughly between 4 to 6.
You look at how consistent it is. It was cooked, very evenly. That's the result of a convection oven, but also he did a good job of spreading the batter very evenly. It appears to be a very nice, even, flat product. Good cookery skills here.
Pastry rings and cut as many circles as I can with varying sizes, all according to the plan. And I know there's gonna be a lot of extra scraps or extra circles and extra fruit at the end of this. And because I really don't like wasting food for videos, I'm gonna make a nice big snack for everybody later. Kendall found a beautiful trifle dish, so I'm laying down our cake scraps, followed by chunks of our crown melon because it was actually too juicy and soft for the preparation that we were gonna do later. This is followed by our extra stabilized whipped cream that didn't fit in the pastry bag, and repeating with cake scraps brushed with any of leftover crown melon juice as a syrup, different fruit slices.
Nice touch. Yeah, it's very common for cakes where you spray a little bit of simple syrup in it to get it very moist. Using the juice from this melon is a very clever way of giving your cake more moisture without having to make a completely different ingredient. If he was making a melon cake, that would be a great way to accentuate the melon flavor.
Cream until the very top is full. I guess you could call it.
So remember I said, and he did cut it very consistently. All right, so, not necessarily the correct technique I mentioned earlier, but obviously not a bad product. Very nice. So in this case, he used those strawberries to use it decoratively in that bowl for his dessert he's making for the crew.
A fun fruit trifle. But this must go away for now as we have business to attend to. All right, so here's my plan. I'm gonna make a fruitcake inside of this melon. So I'm gonna lay down first the smallest diameter of a cake that I cut out from earlier, followed by a nice ring of stabilized whipped cream. Then I decided our first fruit layer shall be mango. This goes down on its nice cream bed, and this is followed by another layer of a slightly larger diameter piece of cake. Brushing the cake layers with the excess melon juice will not only give it flavor.
Look, I just want to take that cup of melon juice and drink that. That would be delicious.
Then I'm going to repeat with more stabilized whipped cream, this time strawberries and cake. Now, this isn't my original idea. Making an entire fruitcake inside of a fruit is commonly found in YouTube videos that I've watched, particularly those really cool street food videos showcasing vendors just really good at their job and making a ton of these melon fruitcakes. So that's where the inspiration came from for this. Once our crown melon is filled to the brim with layers of cake, stabilized whipped cream, and various amounts of delicious fruit, it's time to wrap this up and let this set in the fridge, because it's now time to move on to the exterior of the devil fruit. Most, if not all, devil fruit have a signature S swirl on their exterior, no matter what kind of power they might give to the user.
Fondant?
This fruit, the Gomu Gomu no Mi, can be identified by a purple spherical fruit.
Fondant is basically, it's sugar, made of sugar essentially, along with a bunch of other ingredients. I couldn't tell you exactly, but normally you buy fondant pre-made. In this case, he did that too. It was in a bucket wrapped in plastic. But fondant is really prized because it's easy to shape. It's easy, well, not necessarily easy to work with, but it's very pliable to, and you can really take it in all types of awesome directions and make awesome decorative things, but it's fairly easy to work with, and it has a really wonderful smooth texture to it. So it looks good, it's easy to work with, it's very flexible. When I say flexible, literally it is flexible, but you can really shape it. There's no end to what you could do with fondant, really, as far as decorating cakes.
I tried really hard to think of a creative, fun, and delicious way to do this, but I only ended up with fondant. I'm first rolling out a large sheet of purple fondant to approximately 1/4 inch thick, and by using simple syrup as an adhesive to the melon itself, this will form a nice base layer for our decorations.
So what makes fondant hard to work with is, number one, time and temperature. The longer you leave it out, the drier it's going to get, but then the ambient temperature has to be pretty specific, because if it's too hot or humid, then the fondant will start to absorb that, and that'll make it hard to work with. If you handle it too much, your hands are gonna warm up the fondant, so it will make it harder to work with. So it's one of these things that, while I mentioned it is easy to work with, it's easier than the alternative, which would be making things out of chocolate or pulling sugar and things like that, but it still does require a lot of skill. Another important thing about working with fondant is when you roll it out, you need it to be very consistent, so you don't have thick spots in one place, somewhere thin. The thinner area may tear. As you can see, there's a tear in there in your fondant, and that's hard to recover from. Then generally, I'm assuming he's going to do more to it so he can recover from this, but if you wanted that smooth look, you'd have to start over essentially.
Thanos went and shaved his head. Very satisfying. To achieve that swirly S pattern, I decided to make individual S's that would go and cover the entire surface of this devil fruit, which means it's a lot of work. The strategy that I found most effective was to cut thin strips of fondant, curl the front and curl the back in opposite directions to make an S. Okay, so again, he's got a bunch of tears in the fondant. It looks like the fondant that's wrapped the melon has gotten, well, I think he purposely put on maybe some simple syrup so that the S's can stick onto it. All right, so I'll take that back. But if he wanted a smooth melon, it has cracks in it, again, that wouldn't work, but he's covering it all up with these small S's, so it works. But doing these all by hand and going one by one took a lot of time. I ended up sitting down halfway through. Lower back problems are not something I want to have. But at the end of the day, pretty happy I did this all one by one.
Yeah, beautiful. Very cool. A lot of craftsmanship, time consuming, and he put in the work. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's not even done yet. Super cool.
And for the final decoration, we're returning its nice curly stem back to the top on its head. And I present to you our version of the Gomu Gomu fruit from One Piece.
Alvin did amazing work here. I'm pretty sure, a super pro pastry chef may give some criticism on the S's and that there's some cracking on the areas that are curved. Again, this is just a thing where, someone who's much more experienced and does this day in and day out probably can achieve that without the cracks. They may even cut those individual S's in that shape or close to it, so you don't have to manipulate the fondant into that S shape as much, and you won't have that cracking. But other than that, still beautiful work. Yeah, great.
Is this someone's fruit? Nope, no one's around. All right, guess it's mine.
Yeah, that's not necessarily very delicious, though, taking a mouthful of fondant.
To properly serve this devil fruits cake, I decided to cut it open for a nice cross section. In 3, 2, 1, ta-da! I do have to say, those layers are pretty cool. You can clearly see each layer of cake, fruit, and cream hidden inside this beautiful melon. Although I'm a little bit sad I wasn't able to actually incorporate the fruit from this crown melon into it, that'll come back in later. But to serve, I'm cutting each half into wedges in quarters. This is how I believe they're commonly served, and this is how I would serve it if I had friends coming over. Oh, this is really good. It's a really, really light and delicious fruit-forward cake, but the fun part is that the fact that the cake has actually absorbed not only the juice from the melon we put in, but also eating it from a melon imparts a slight, refreshing, clean melon flavor that I don't think you would get if you just put melon in it itself. This has to be eaten from the melon inside. And in about 2.6 seconds, this has now joined the Clean Melon Peel Club. But wait, we still have our trifle.
So we're almost done with the video here. I actually have a comment about the trifle. Let's talk about the melon cake, the devil's fruit. I agree with him. Building this cake within the melon will more than likely incorporate a wonderful freshness into this dessert that you can't achieve by just simply putting the melon juice in there, 100%. Also, the melon itself, if it's refrigerated, it's gonna be nice and cold, and again, nice and refreshing. If you were to present this to me as a dessert, at a restaurant, and he is not, but I would totally flunk this and would never serve it. Either, you know, there's no purpose of having the skin of this melon, you know, and not have any of the fruit in there. You also can't consume it, and generally, rule of thumb, you want to try not to have anything on the plate that isn't edible. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. If I was him, and I will say this by identifying that in my method, I would build it in an actual mold that you can, you know, in a round mold that you can refrigerate, let it set, and then remove the mold, and now you have this round shape. And that round cake shape is what you would cover with fondant, and then all those S patterns. And now you have a fully edible, and you can make that stem part out of sugar, out of chocolate, white chocolate, and you know, put some edible food coloring on it to paint it to that stem color. I'm just going into extremes of if I were to serve this in a restaurant setting. Again, it's just, I'm a professional chef. That's what this channel's about. However, there's no denying that he put in a lot of work. This is very creative, very cool, and he's trying to make something from a fucking anime show, okay? Now the trifle, I can definitely tell right off the bat, that cake is gonna be completely soaked and saturated and very soggy. I would still eat the shit out of that. This is a snack for the crew. No one's critiquing or judging him, but you can already tell right now, I mean, that's just loaded with tons of juice. Not saying it's bad, but again, if you were to serve this in a restaurant setting, I know some of you out there are gonna give me shit about saying that, you're not blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, I think that's gonna be a soggy mess, in my opinion, from what I'm observing. And don't forget, he put the chunks of melon in there, which is just all water, essentially.
Because this has the majority of our melon fruit inside of it. There's an interesting phenomenon when you bite into the flesh of the melon and it just goes juice everywhere, but then the cake just absorbs all of that. Now that is really cool. Wait, let me just get my fork for another bite. Okay, yes, there it is. Nothing weird at all.
Very cool. Listen, man, a lot of work, a lot of craftsmanship went into it. Do I think it was, you know, again, he's making this for a YouTube channel show, not serving it to anybody. This is meant to be fun. This is for entertainment. He's not serving it at a restaurant. I know all that. However, I am reacting as a professional chef. And if he was someone I was looking to hire at a restaurant, you know, as my pastry chef, then I definitely wouldn't hire him off of this. Again, the S's are cracked along the sides. The skin of the melon cannot be consumed. So by wrapping the melon skin with the fondant, despite you building a cake within it, it's just not gonna work. Like I said, I know that this is for a show. Anyway, what am I gonna grade this out of a 10? Again, I'm looking at it from a chef's perspective, working in a professional restaurant. I'd give that a 2 out of 10. If I needed to serve that in a restaurant setting. As far as the work he put in, man, I'm not gonna grade it. You know, again, it's for fun, but that's my grade. Can't believe it's lower than Jamie Oliver's butterless butter chicken. Again, I know, I gave it a really high mark. I really shouldn't have. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. And with that said, I am Chef Brian Tsao, not your typical chef, and I'll see you really soon.